Welcome to the Wealthy Dentist Podcast, where we explore how top dentists are building incredible businesses. I'm your host, Ward Powell. Let's dive in. I just want to thank you, Dr. Ali, for joining us today here at the Wealthy Dentist Podcast. I've had awesome people to come on. I saw information about you that inspired me to reach out to you. And I just want you to share with the public some of the things that you do. I know we don't have a lot of time to do that, but we have at least an hour. And if you want to express some things that people may not know about you, that would be great. So first of all, I'd like to ask you, what inspired you to get involved with the field of dentistry or to come into the industry at all?
So it's a funny story, Ward. It started with me growing up with Egyptian parents. And if you know anything about Egyptian parents, you don't negotiate with them. They say you got to be a doctor, and that's it. You got to be a doctor. So it started like that. I picked dentistry because it was the shortest route to being a doctor. And and then eventually I absolutely fell in love with the industry, specifically when we went to the clinical portion of dentistry, where you actually make a difference in people's lives. It's not the biochemistry and the anatomy and physiology and all that stuff, but it was really making a difference in people's lives.
Yes.
And then later on, I realized that the day-to-day 8 to 5 doing dentistry wasn't for me. I didn't fall in love with it, but I fell in love with the actual impact it did for the patient and the communities. So that's where I thought, okay, well, I can do something else, but keep that passion and love for dentistry. And that's when I studied business and started to scale up, started to do more efforts to having an impact on more and more people in the community with less of my actual 8 to 5 time doing dentistry. So after I became a periodontist, I decided to study MBA and a CVA and a bunch of other business degrees that at the time I didn't know how impactful they are, but later I realized, wow, they shaped my life so much.
That is awesome, man. I don't know where we begin. I mean, because just to be a general dentist is pretty busy, but a periodontist and then adding other disciplines to the fray. I don't know. How did you find the time to do that? That's interesting.
When you know what, the time thing, we always say we don't have time, but if you have enough passion and willpower, you'll find the time. And if you don't, you'll find an excuse. So I found the time. And so as you, so as everyone else, anyone, when they have a passion for something, they'll find the time.
And I totally agree, because it's like when you get to doing whatever it is that you just tunnel vision upon, it's like, oh my goodness, you look back and you says, how did I do that?
Yes, absolutely. You know how you hear those stories, some child got locked in a car or something that happened that's traumatic, and the mother gathers this strength of 10 men and lifts up a vehicle or broke into somewhere. And normally they wouldn't be able to do that. But when there's a passion or there's a will, they'll do whatever.
Totally, 100%. I totally agree with you. Totally, man. Oh, so when you finished, or I shouldn't say finished, but when you stopped practicing dentistry, and you decided to make a transition or to try to, add to what you were already doing, let's just put it that way. Which discipline did you start first?
So it started with management. I was intrigued and interested in knowing how to scale up a successful process or a service or a product into a bigger scale. One of my passions was to have a repeatable system or a process to make it to where you can do this at a scale and not lose quality. So I started with management, and then I figured, okay, well, you don't necessarily have to have one practice impacting certain number of people in a certain geographical community. You can actually do that at a scale. And I started doing that, and it was effective. In the beginning, of course, you have your fails and your obstacles, and you fail a million times before you succeed. And before I knew it, the first round was I had 12 locations with my partners, and then did another group, had 10 locations, and then joined one of these groups with a bigger group with friends of ours, and we became 92 locations. And
Mm.
now partnering with an amazing group called Guardian, we have 162 locations. So in total, with all of my groups or DSOs, I'm a partner and a part of 200 over 250 locations in the U.S. And that became from the passion of how to scale up and not lose quality.
That's awesome. Quality. I'm glad you said that because the next question, as you were talking about, adding all of these new pieces, all of these new offices to your business uh, plan. How, I mean, could you expand on the philosophy behind all of that?
Well, scaling up in general is a science, just like project management, just like things that we do day to day, and we think it's normal or easy or I'll figure it out. It's actually a science. So the deeper you go in it, the more you realize that really don't know anything, and then
Right.
you know the Dunning-Kruger effect where you think you're an expert but you're really not. So and then I started realizing, wow, this is a whole science. Let me deep dive into it, and it became very impactful. Imagine impacting 200,000 people instead of 20 people. And it's even if you don't have to impact them 100%, if you impact 200,000 people 80%, you've done an amazing job. And you will be remembered for that. We will be long gone, but the impact we leave on this earth will continue forever because someone else will be inspired and continue that path.
Mm, mm. So yeah, well said. So there's core values aside from philosophy. There are core values that you obviously have somewhere in your vault of
Absolutely.
ideas, and you lay those out and you carry them throughout your business practice, I would assume. So, where will you find yourself in the eyes of an entrepreneur when you're looking at, say, um, one that's creative and then the other one that's really like, uh, I don't want to say bottleneck, the one that kind of like does the fine tuning, the making sure that whatever this creation is going to happen because this person is doing that and that person is doing that, or do you do both?
Well, absolutely. We all have different personalities, Ward, and that they don't make us inferior or superior to one another, but
Right.
they make us complete one another. So if
Yeah.
I know you have a superpower and you're very good at it and we're working on the same project, I'm more inclined to do less of it and let you shine in that department and do more of the things that is my superpower. Now, the key here is for a good leader to identify those superpowers and cohesively match the teams with their superpower. So, in any partnership, let's say you and I are going to go into a partnership. It has to be somewhat collaborative. So, let's say you're a musician. Let's say you play the guitar and I sing. The more I do, or the better I do, the better we both look. The better you do, the better we both look, and we grow from there. Collaborative partnership versus a competitive partnership. If you're doing something and I'm doing the same exact thing, well, we will reach a point where there's no more growth there. So the key here is step one is to identify what is your superpower that you're very good at, that you love doing, that one day when you say I'm going to retire, retirement doesn't mean to abandon everything. It's to abandon the things you don't like to do, but to keep the things you like to do. So if you retire, what are the things you like to do? And if you tell me a list, then I know that these are your superpower. These are what you enjoy doing, what you're going to do in your sleep without even worrying about it, and brings you joy. So I identify those first, and then find out what are the gaps that you may be missing, and see if those gaps I can fill or someone else can fill, and then team them up.
That's man, that is so cool. That is just so awesome. And I'm glad people will be able to get this information and listen to it over and over again because you're laying out some gems. I mean, I started from the very beginning. So then So then you went from management, you went from practice to management, and then after management, I'm scared. What else? What else is there?
Well, you realize that it's not just it's a part of the bigger picture. Some In the early days we were motivated by different things. We're motivated by financial interest or growth in a certain way, and we neglected other things. You know, family time, social life, things that complete you as a human, but also the impact we have on the community. Because as younger people and kids and growing up, we're more selfish. Like, hey, what's in it for me? And then we realize, oh my gosh, we are making a difference. I remember ward people coming to some of our offices without shoes on. They didn't have the money and people who are truly struggling, and they just really need dental care, and they didn't have access to care. So I thought, no, there's a bigger mission here. So we started becoming very active in the political world and lobbying world. We started meeting with senators, and I remember clearly going with lobbyists to different senators and trying to impact some laws, whether it's improving on some Medicaid fees or decreasing the time needed for credentialing dentists or something that impacts the community in some form or fashion. And that helps you with the scaling up because you truly have a purpose. You know you're making a difference. So we started scaling that, and it is impactful. The community notices, your team notices, the dentist you partner with, they know you have a cause. You're not this just growth hungry machine that is going everywhere to buy practices or grow. No, it's truly a cause that you're making a difference. And along the way, everybody wins. The dentist wins. They have a better work-life harmony because it's not usually a balance, it's harmony. They work together. It's not
Hmm.
one or the other. And the team, and then you realize that you have 3,000 team members. Some of them are single moms who are struggling to put food on the table. Some of them are barely making it paycheck to paycheck and drowning in debt. And you are truly making a difference, whether it's by growth and they getting more compensation or bonuses, whether they have more time to spend time with family, whether so that when we have a day, we'll say, hey, we're going to do community service and we'll just do dentistry for free one day. Everybody jumps on board. Everybody knows that, hey, this is not compensated, but I'm in. I know it's time away from my family, but I know I'm going to help that person who's struggling to get their teeth done. So it's more of a purpose, like you mentioned, than just business growth or dentistry.
Yeah, yeah, I love the harmonious approach that you have. Family's important, and being able to allow people to do what they do. Being confident enough in yourself and your skills to say, hey, you know what? Hey, I mean, that part, go ahead and get it done. I know what I know. I'm going to get this done. How about that? And we can help each other grow and continue growing. And then there's no ceiling, there's no stopping. I was just wondering, just as you were sharing all of this with me, with the community, are you domestic only, or is there something that you're doing outside of the country as well?
Yeah, we've had campaigns outside of the country in different countries, Latin America, and those campaigns were very successful because it's a win-win for everyone. The dentists go and practice their skills, and they grow and they do different procedures they haven't done before, and you're helping communities that don't even have any access to care. The suppliers and vendors are happily willing to support and provide some sponsorships and to bring in some materials and instruments to help with that and also put their name out there. So it's a win-win. So yes, it's not just domestic but international as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So let's back up a little bit. I mean, because I'm trying to get ahead of myself. I'm hearing all of these things. I see the big map behind you. I was like, oh, okay. Well, this guy must be all over the world.
The world domination map.
That's what it is, man. That's, oh man, that is so wonderful. And I know, just like I said, in each couple seconds or minutes that we've been speaking and you've been laying out some of these gems, people are going to be able to take this, and you probably wind up getting some calls one way or the other. Let's
Oh yeah,
let's
absolutely.
continue. Um, I'm wondering now, when you go out, and I don't know if you do the hiring or what, how is that process done with specifically dentists like that may want to join your organization? Because what I've heard so far sounds really interesting, and I just
Mhm.
wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, so we partner with dentists who have very similar, like-minded mentality, meaning dentists who care about the quality of care, dentists who care about their teams and have some sort of systems or processes, or willing to have systems and processes, dentists who are wanting to grow, dentists, or even the dentist who wants to eventually transition. There is a plan to have another dentist come and transition them out. So what we do is we partner with them. We, if they have a practice, we buy into the practice. Let's say 50%, 60%, whatever the number is. There's not a set cookie cutter deal, and we let them do their thing, because there's no. They have a secret sauce, and they have a methodology that made them successful, and that is working. So we let that be, like, hey, you do you, but we'll provide back end support, whatever that is, in accounting, finance, procurement, negotiating power with vendors, compliance, KPI tracking, and business intelligence, all sorts of things that if they want to tap into, great. There's a core sets of services that everyone gets, like accounting. We have to have all the chart of accounts. Everything looks identical. Business intelligence, we want to be able to track all the metrics and things like that. Basic HR functions like payroll services, benefits, and all that. And then the rest is some a la carte stuff. If you want it, great. If your revenue cycle management, your collections percentage are 80% and you want to elevate it to 98%, well, we can help with that. Otherwise, if it's running well and you don't want it to be touched, great, no problem. We're holding hands together, and it becomes just one big unity, one big unified philosophy.
So, yeah, with that in mind, I was just wondering. I mean, like, there's no like you said, there's no cookie cutter type of framework that you deal with. Everybody's situation is obviously
Mhm.
uh, different than others. And so I mean, like, is there like when you're reaching out? Okay, so you did say that you have people that has to have somewhat of the same philosophy,
Mhm.
to for you all to even have a conversation. And so,
Mhm.
do you all have like people that are actually looking for those types, or do people actually come to you, or is it a bit of both?
Are you talking about like interest dentists and current partners? How did
Yes.
that happen? Yes, usually what happens is in any decision making process, there are steps. The first step is need recognition. The dentist out there has a need of some sort. They realize they have a need, whether they want to grow and can't grow, or they need some systems and structure and they don't know where to start to do that, or they want to transition out in 5 years. They're running great and everything's like a well-oiled machine, but they are realized in 5 years I may need to exit. Something, a need comes up, and then after the need stage there is the search of options. Just like anything, like if you want to buy a house, buy a car, if you want to start a business, first step is have a need. Second step is, well, what are my options? I can bring a partner on board and hire a dentist and have him come with me and we can tag team this together. I can find a dental group out there that I can join, or there's tons of, I can get an associate, try them out for a couple of years and then see if that associate is interested. They may not be interested and leave me and go elsewhere. So that's the first step, search of options. And then the third step is the evaluation of alternatives. Okay, I narrowed my options down to 2 or 3, and now I'm going to start evaluating it. So I want to partner with Ward. Well, I don't know him. I really need to know him first. So let me sit down with him, find out what he's about, and then uh, get some reviews. I want to meet those who did business with Ward before to see if he is a good fit for me and I'm a good fit for him. And then after the evaluation of alternatives, then you do this decision making. You go ahead, you do the action. Then after that is the post decision evaluation. Because once the dust settle, you'd be like, hey, did I do the good thing? Did I make the right decision? And that's the final stage of decision making. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm happy I did that. So these are usually how things go into partnership.
Okay. And so I know you said that there's no like no set, I'm going to say this again. There's no set way a person um, kind of joins up to you outside of the philosophy or the willingness to be homogenous. But what I'm wondering too is how cost effective is it with those that either start up or have been out for a long time and like almost ready to retire, like you mentioned earlier, the next 5 years? How cost effective is setting up with you as opposed to or your in your organization as opposed to anyone else for that matter, any of the big, you know, Aspens of the world?
Yeah, so you look at a few things. The first thing is economies of scale. So if you buy a box of gloves and I buy a box of gloves and John buys a box of gloves, if we all conglomerate together, we can have almost half the cost because we're buying significant volume. So
That's
there's economies of scale there and power of negotiation.
yes,
That's immediate just by holding hands.
correct.
The other things, the other economies of scale is you have extremely better firepower in a lot of things. So instead of having an office manager that is doing all sorts of things and greeting patients and talking to the dentist and where they're distracted, you can have, or the front team, you can have some of those services being done off site, especially if they're not patient facing. So, verification of insurance, whatever it is that is not patient facing, the patient deserves high quality 5-star service the minute they walk in the door. We all leave whatever we're doing. We look at them in the eyes and say, hello, Mrs. Smith. We are delighted to see you today. That won't happen if you're on the phone verifying insurance or dealing with some angry team member in the back. So that you can have a team somewhere that does verification of interest, and you can have that team do this for 6 7 locations. That's what they do. They're not distracted by patients walking in. They're not distracted by the dentist walking in the door saying, hey, Mary, can you please help me with this? So they're more impactful and they're more economic because one person can do 2 or 3 locations instead of just one. So economies of scale is a big one. That's just 2 examples I gave you from at least 30 economies of scale. The second thing is, remember, you as a dentist, you're the CEO of your organization, and you're also the practicing practitioner, the clinician in the office. So you're wearing so many hats. You're the HR person, you're the IT person, you're the procurement person, and if you're walking by and the phone's ringing, you're going to answer the phone. And you do so many things. The partnership allows you to be focused completely on patient care, which is your superpower. Remember, we talked about this. If this is your superpower, I want you focused on your superpower, and I'll take care of anything else that could distract you from being a superpower. Because you're not the world's best accountant out there, and trust me, dentists are not. And someone else out there is better. And so that's where the firepower increases. And then you realize, wow, I have so much time that I didn't have before. I have appetite and bandwidth for a second location and a third location. So now you found yourself more impactful, serving more communities, hiring more team members, leaving a footprint, and better for your family because you're getting more money in the door to yourself and your family. Your net worth is increasing. So it's a win-win for everyone. And that's where the specialization comes in handy.
You know, I like what you said, and I've said that a couple times already. And I'm going to tell you another reason why I think this is really cool, because it doesn't seem to be a rush type of situation. It doesn't seem as if, you know, they're coming into a place where they have to like not have that bedside manner, or, have to meet, a certain budget, constraint. And, where somebody's looking over their shoulder. Man, because I'm sure most dentists didn't get into the business to be having someone to look over their shoulder. I mean, that in and of itself, aside from the beauty of the art itself, you know,
Absolutely.
I just like, wow, I'm just loving what I'm hearing so far. This is great. So tell me, what do you see coming up? What is your insight of what's coming down the road in the next, I don't know, 3, 5, maybe even 10 years that's going to change the industry, you think?
Oh man, that's a long topic, but I'll tell you two forces that are and will be impacting us significantly. One of them is the economy, and this is very unpredictable, and there's so many thoughts and schools of philosophies. But if you're looking at the world right now, you're going to find the powers are shifting, and you're going to find economical statuses are being different now than they were before. You'll find China de-dollarizing their trade. You'll find Russia de-dollarizing their trade. Almost 40% now of China's trade is not using the US dollars, where it was like 5% about 20 years ago. And if this movement continues, so what usually happened in the past is whenever you have a need, when you have a deficit for the US economy, when the US had a deficit, what they did is they printed money. And to print money in any other place in the world, it causes extreme inflation because you're devaluing your currency quick. But in the US, because it's a currency that everyone else in the world needed to trade, it didn't affect us much. So, yeah, there was some inflation, but it was little compared to the world. And because you're using something that everyone else's needs. So you can print. Now, if the de-dollarization continues, then you're going to see inflation go at a faster rates that we have ever seen before, and we don't have any financial models to actually model that. This, since the 70s, the world has been using the dollar for their exchange. So that's going to cause. I don't know what the impact would look like, and I'm sure there's smart brains out there in the U.S. economy that are seeking ways to combat this issue. But I know that it will affect dentistry, whether it's consumer spending, consumer habits, the buying decision process we talked about, or the decision making process of the consumer is going to change. Uh, they're going to be prioritizing needs and less of elective procedures, maybe. And all these are speculation. But what's not speculation is the fact that the dollar is is going to be devalued in the next few. Now, how does that affect dentistry? To be honest, I don't know, but we can just make speculation. One other force that is affecting that will impact, and by the way, this is not a negative view on things. I'm a very optimistic guy, and I think that dentistry is always going to be something that everyone needs. You're if you're an average income earner and you need something, you're going to postpone it and have your kids do their dentistry. You're going to postpone it and take care of medical needs that you. So medical and dental is always going to be on the forefront. So the optimistic view is that there's so many, only 60% of Americans go to the dentist, and that number is growing. And in the worldwide, it's anywhere between there's no real numbers, but between 20 to 40% of worldwide citizens are going to the dentist. So there's a huge uh, untapped potential, and it's growing significantly. And also with the rise of social media and self-esteem, and people want to look better. And the TikToks, have you ever seen those? They're like, yeah, let me. So that is creating a need for I need to look better and I need to be healthier. That is also an untapped potential. So that economical force is going strong. And then there's the other economical force of the inflation and other stuff. Um, how does that impact? Not sure, but we know these forces exist, and let's study them. The other force that I wanted to bring up is the labor force, because the mentality of the now people going in the workforce. They were kids 10 years ago. Now they are in the workforce. Uh, that there's a shift also in the mentality. People wanted to work more remotely. They want to be more impactful and make more money with less of their time so that they can travel and spend more time with family, which is something that is smart, right? But is very impactful on the workforce. I always joke, say everyone wants to be an Instagram influencer and just work from home or, do their thing. That's not the whole population, but there's a big chunk here, and you've seen it. You've seen hygienists retire. The older hygienists, when COVID hit, they weren't ready to retire, but they said, you know what, I was going to retire in a few years anyways. Let me retire. And then newer hygienists, the newer population going in, like, oh, I don't want to be in people's mouth all day, and then COVID and stuff, and infection, and let me just find another career. So we've seen that gap hit us hard this year and last year,
Mm,
where there's an extreme shortage of hygienists. Not
mm.
just hygienists, you'll see that in every other healthcare. So labor force is going to be impactful. We just need to be able to be resilient and figure out how to combat that.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Well, yeah, you definitely got to keep your head up and keep your head on the swivel. And I would assume make sure that you're on top of whatever it is that you do best. And make sure that people do know where you are and who you are, right?
Yes.
Marketing, in my opinion, is everything. So yeah, man, woo, this is great. So what would you share with well, let's start with the new dentist that's coming into the industry, and they're trying to figure it out, trying to figure out where should they start. Should they just, you know, I don't know, I'm sure they're not going out there helter skelter, but how can you share with us what you think they should be kind of focusing on to help them to become
Uh,
a wealthy dentist?
well, so one thing I noticed is that makes a huge impact is goal setting. So I'll share with you a few research studies that happened. Harvard University, 1979, did a famous MBA study that found that 3% of the graduates had written goals and plans. 13% had goals but not written them down. So the 3% had goals and they wrote them down. The 13% didn't had goals but did not write them down, and 84% had no specific goals. 10 years later, the 3% who had written them down earned on average 10 times more than the other 97% combined. So that was profound. And then that shook the, everyone's like, oh, this is bias. A Dominican University study, uh, same, very similar study. People who wrote down their goals and shared them with a friend and followed through with that friend through updates were likely to achieve those goals. The participants who actually who wrote the goals achieved 76% of their goals. Another, you can look these up. The Journal of Clinical Psychology, 2013. Another study by Dr. Norcross. He found that those who set a New Year's resolution were 10 times more likely to change their behaviors than those who did not set a New Year's resolution. Anyways, I don't want to bore you with statistics, but the reason I emphasized on this is because it does work. Set goals, it does work. Whatever goal you want to do, weight loss or run a marathon or earn 10% more every year, whatever it is that goal is, set the goal, write it down, share it so that everyone can know that you're accountable to it. Let's say you want to join a race next year, tell everybody around you that you're joining that race. Post it on Facebook so everyone's going to call you out on your BS if you don't. And
Right.
do it.
Yeah, man, that heat gets behind you, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly. When you're sitting on that couch eating popcorn, you're like, oh, darn it, I need to go work out
Got
because that,
this to do. That is
yes.
so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. Yeah,
So I
I
think,
want to. Yeah, I want to sell Lake Michigan. So I understand that.
yeah,
I've told a lot of people that's what I want to do. So it's out there, just as you said it.
yeah, it's out
So
there.
yeah, that's one of my plans within the next year and a half. I want to be out there doing it. Uh,
You know what? I'll hold you accountable. I'll call you out.
right. I bet you will at that. Oh man. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I will.
man, I got away from my. I had a wonderful question for you regarding what you were just speaking of. But when you start talking about put your information out there and let it go, I kind of like, yeah, he's
Yeah,
right. He's
yeah,
right. So
yeah.
writing. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. There's a good book on that. And you probably came across it called Tractions by this
Oh yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Gino Wickman, I believe his name is.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. The EOS system and management and traction,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
fantastic. It's a game changer. A lot of people, it made an impact on their career path.
Absolutely.
And if you think about it, I mean, it's a book and it's a lot of information, but the basics are simple. Write your goals down, make them your North Star, uh, create achievable targets, and then hit those targets, hold everybody accountable, and have people hold you accountable. That's the basics of the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so, like you said, it's so simple. Don't write a 10, 20 page business plan. You could put it on one page.
Absolutely, absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, so if you, I mean, of course, there's a lot of things that I learned from in the past, and I, would love to have some sort of a structured approach to answer that question. But the first thing is goal setting. Write it down, make it achievable targets. Because if it's unachievable, because we have a tendency to crush our 5 year goals and to not meet our 1 year goal because we have this all like I'm going to do this by next year, and usually you don't. You get close though. So put realistic expectations, realistic goals, achievable targets and milestones, and let's hit those and celebrate the wins. That's an important piece.
Absolutely. Yeah. Realistic expectations. Very important. Uh, and step by step, just as long as you're moving forward, that is so great. So did you have any mentors? I mean, I know you spoke of mom and dad. I mean, making sure that, hey, you had to do this. Maybe we will talk about this. So what did mom and dad do?
Well, so first of all, the household shapes a lot of your life and growth. If
Yeah.
you had a very supportive family that were not just high achievers, but believe in you, help you set your goals, push you forward, not put you down, positive reinforcement, positive energy, it makes a huge difference. So my parents were a huge difference, made a huge difference in my life. They always encouraged me. Anything that was growth for me, they never said no. Like if I say, "Hey, can I go hang out with my friends?" They'll ask a million questions and most likely going to say no. But if I say I had a course that I want to attend, before I even finish the sentence, they will be absolutely. If I say, "Hey, you know what? I think I'm old enough and I need a car," and they will say no. Go, you know what? Let's create a fund and let's see how you're going to contribute to that fund, and we'll get you
That's
a car.
right. Put some
Yes,
skin in the game.
exactly. But if I said I need a course with the same amount, like if the course was as expensive as a car, before I finished the sentence, they were going to say yes, let's get you there.
That's
So
great.
yeah, I feel that that was my best and first coaching is how my parents, and also it's the I personally think everybody needs a coach. Everyone.
Yes.
That accountability piece makes a difference. Like how many workout routines you downloaded from the internet and didn't do any of it, right? How
Right.
many how many cooking recipes you downloaded? It's like I'm going to eat healthy and stuff, and you did none of it, right? But the coach adds this, so it's not the know-how. If you think about it, know-how is abundant. Maybe 30 years ago, when the internet wasn't there, there was a lack of know-how. You have to go get a book, right?
Yes.
But the know-how wasn't abundant. Now the know-how is everywhere. It's actually noisy. There's too much know-how.
Yes.
It's the discipline. Who's going to wake up in the morning and do the know-how? And that requires discipline. If you have the discipline enough to select the right know-how and to get there, great, good for you. But if you don't, which is 90% of the population, a coach makes a difference, whatever that is. Mental health, workout coach, business coach, whatever that is, someone that will put a homework that you're responsible for, and then you're gonna start sweating every day. It's like, oh man, I didn't finish my homework, and then you go back, oh my dog ate my homework. I'm sorry. So that accountability piece is what actually drives success.
Yeah, hold yourself accountable and having somebody to make sure you stick with it is that's definitely something that everybody needs. I agree. So what are some of your habits or routines you do on a daily basis as a businessman, as a artist in dentistry, and are you father? I didn't know.
Yes, I have
I
triplets
just
actually.
assumed that you were.
Yeah.
I just assumed that you were. So I think I was like, I better hold back. Yeah, great, man. So tell me about those areas.
So I'm a father. I'm a father of triplets. They're 8 years old,
Wow.
and yeah, they're. I have systems and processes at home as well. Everything is structured. So yes, I travel very often. Always carve some time for outdoors and doing outdoor stuff. There's also tons of research about how the sun affects our mood and our productivity. And you can see it all over for Scandinavian countries and the depression rates and versus sunny places, all that stuff. So you can see the impact. So I have some sun time, and you can also tell from my skin color that I'm also soaked in the sun all the time. Uh, so I love the sun. Uh,
Yes.
travel, traveling a ton, um, spending time with family. So I always say that the 6 factors of success, based on some of the books I've read, were number one, family life, a balanced family life. You know, your relationship with mom and dad, your how many times you see them, talk to them, all that stuff. Your kids. To love life, you have a partner and your relationship with them, and how do you carve some time for them and do things for them, and things like that. Your health and fitness, whether it's mental or physical, and the social life. So, how many times have you canceled with your friends? You had a coffee date with your friend and you didn't show up because you had work obligations. And I think it's normalized in society to say, yeah, that's fine, don't worry about it. But no, that's not fine. You need to carve some time. You know what? I made the time for you as a friend, and we need to hang out, play golf, or whatever it is. And that's as important as your business meeting, because we vow to have this healthy, harmonious life, and it's not all business. Uh, yeah,
Yes, that emotional bank account is just as important to that literal
yes,
bank account, that financial bank account. Totally
absolutely.
with you, man. Totally. Oh wow, this is oh what wow. Time is just flying right now.
Oh
Uh
wow, yeah, it's time is flying. That's right.
so I'm just I'm curious. So some of your habits that you do to prepare yourself for the day,
Mhm.
how do you approach that?
Yeah, so number one is sleep. You have to get enough sleep. I can't emphasize on it. Every book you'll ever read, or every doctor you'll ever talk to, they will tell you about the importance of sleep in your day. And you probably noticed that if you had 4 or 5 hours of sleep, your productivity just goes out in the trash bin. And if you had really good night's sleep, you will be significantly sharper, mental focus, and so forth. So I usually go to bed early, and my friends and even my team members, they make comments like, "Oh, you don't want to hang out with us?" So, no, I love you all. You're a part of my tribe, my community, but I just need some sleep. I just need the rest because I know my next day is going to be trashed if I don't sleep.
That's
So
right.
it starts with sleep, and then also one habit that I love is gratitude. So make it
Mm.
a habit to at least compliment 5 people in your day, whether it's the server that helped you in the restaurant, or your spouse or significant other, or your kiddos, or whatever it is, your team members. You know what? It's free and it takes 2 seconds, and you won't lose anything. And you really mean it. You're not doing it as a task. You're really mean it. Hey, if you look nice today, I'm going to tell you you look nice today, and that is going to make an impact on your day, right? So sleep and gratitude would be, and then I like checklists and systems. So I look at my to-do list or the things that I need to be doing. I love checklists in general. There's a great book called the Checklist Manifesto, Atul Gawande. I'm sure you probably read it. uh, it was talking about the importance of having a checklist. And I'm a pilot myself, and I bet you anything, you don't want to fly with me if I'm not using a checklist, even if I've flown a million times. right? So
I love it.
yeah,
I
so
love it.
why would I run my business, or why would I go out without
Any
having a
different.
checklist somewhere that, yeah. uh,
Absolutely.
and make it a habit to write down what you need to get done, because when you say, oh yeah, I need to do that, and it's just going to
Hmm.
get lost in the world. Using a checklist, and then of course tracking KPIs. For me, KPIs are very important. Same thing. What How would you feel flying with me if I don't look at my gauges? Right, that would be a disaster. So I need to always look at my gauges, whatever they are. What's the current status versus what's the ideal case scenario, and how we bridge that gap.
Hmm.
Uh, Also, other habits, like I made a conscious effort to eat healthier and have a better life in general. I used to be a cancer patient. I'm a cancer survivor. So for me, it's important to have some sort of regulated, healthier life because of chance of recurrence. But I noticed that it helped me with other things too, mental health, my energy levels and things like that, and of course being active. So these are some of the habits that I just like to do.
Great share. Great share. Great share. So we're finding that, I mean, like, some of the things that we take for granted, I mean, like our sleeping habits, the food that we eat, getting out in the sun, giving people thanks, those kinds of things. I mean, like just giving. I mean, it just sounds like you have just a reservoir of the on the need of giving, just giving. Period. That's on a that sounds like it's on the top of one of, among the top of your list. And I mean, like I also had a situation where I came across some information that says when you do give, it puts you on a certain level in your mind, in your gut, in your feeling, your existence that nothing else does.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It does. Apart from the selfish reasons of feeling better, because there is component in your subconscious brain by feeling better with giving, and it is true. Apart from that, put that aside, because everyone
Yes.
has it. You are truly making a difference, even with
Yeah.
just a word, by saying, "Hey, you know what? Thank you for your service today," or "That
Yeah.
was amazing,"
Yeah.
or by whatever giving you do, whether it's you did something for free, or
Mhm.
you paid for the car behind you in the fast food place, or whatever it is. It's going to make a huge impact, and believe it or not, they will have more and more tendencies to do the same to others. So because of you, the butterfly effect, you could have
Yes.
an impact in so many different people.
Yes. Yes. Wow. So what's new? I mean, what's ahead uh for you, your business, your family? I mean, anything that you want to share with us that's looking ahead, how you want things to go.
You know what, Ward? It's this is gonna sound strange, but I seriously wake up happy every day. I love what I do. I wake up happy every day. Of course, some of the day to day minutia is not fun, but even if I retire from the things I don't like to do, a big part of what I do daily is something that I want to keep doing,
Oh, that's awesome.
whether it's making an impact. So my plan is to continue to do this, grow as much as possible, help as many communities as possible, maybe write some publications or articles or books that could help others, and continue reading the ones that are there. I'm very involved in the DSO community and the dental space, whether it's speaking or attending conferences or things like that. I want to continue doing that. So that's my goal, is to spread happiness and positivity and productivity, and keep doing it, and be remembered for it after I perish.
That's great. There's a book I just finished called Entrusted. I want to say it's by a guy by the name of York, and the other writer on the book is Howell. Both of them
Mm,
are attorneys. One is a CPA, and everything that you just expressed to us today had to do a bit with, if you don't mind me saying it, because before I used to think it was a negative kind of connotation, but the way they express human capital
mm,
being the thing that I mean, there's no dollar. You can't put a dollar amount on
Mhm.
your value or who you are,
Yes.
what you bring to the table, if you will.
Uh,
And when you do, when your time's up, that human capital is still going on.
yes. Oh
Now,
wow, amazing. That's right.
and the way these guys lay it out, is like you take this information and you put, like you said, write it down so the children and their children's children can have this human capital information, if you will, to continue to move forward. Now, there's sure things are going to change because 20 years ago, we didn't have the internet like we have it now, right? So, I mean, that changed a whole lot. I mean, cell phones just came on the set about 15 years ago. I'm like, goodness, can you imagine? I don't know what's the future gonna hold, but I can say this. There's a lot of information that I've learned many years ago that I'm still using today.
Absolutely. And not just you, the generations to come will use today.
Yes, yes. And for us to put that information down as leaders in our own right is something that we not just I mean, it's not that we could do it, we must do it, you
Yes.
know? We must do that. So that's what I think that's what would you like to say to end this up, man? Because this has been so great and impactful. I don't want to make this the last time we had this conversation.
Well, one thing I want to say before we conclude is you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. We all start somewhere.
Absolutely, we do. We do. And with that, I want to say, Dr. Ali, thank you so much for joining us and gracing us with your information today. As I mentioned earlier, I'm sure many people are going to take some of the information, if not most of it, and write it down because they'll really get a chance to rewind this and listen to it over and over again. Because, repetition is our teacher, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so thank you so again for joining us. Is there any information that you can leave us with if someone wanted to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. I can put my email in the chat, and it'll be I'll be delighted to hear from anyone, whether to add information and to share their wisdom, or if they wanted me to share some of mine. This is how we all grow. So absolutely, I'm very reachable everywhere. Facebook, X, LinkedIn, whatever platform you use, you'll find me.
And you are still practicing dentistry, correct?
No, I have
Or
not
not?
practiced in a long time. Yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Now that's
Yeah.
interesting. You're a businessman now.
Yes.
You got your hand in a whole lot of other things. And so that right there, I would like when we get I would like to invite you again and we talk a little bit more about transitioning from dentistry to business or being able to do both and still, keep your sanity, if you will. That's that's something that a lot of dentists are having a serious challenge with.
Yes.
I noticed. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a hot topic. We can do a series on that, by the way. That's a very hot.
Okay, okay, I'm all for it. Thank you so much again for joining us, Doc. Again, I'm sure the people are going to love it, and let's do this again.
Love it. Thank you, Ward, for having me on this amazing platform, and looking forward to more of it. Have a fantastic rest of your day.